The Empire. They are the centerpiece of Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord, a realm of noble cataphracts, disciplined legionaries, and a civil war so messy, even a soap opera would be taking note. Of course, it is the first faction that everybody plays around with, because apparently none of us have any unique experiences in this life. But haven't I seen this in a history book before? Well, in this new series, I'm going to be grabbing a parchment and deep diving into the real-life sagas that inspired Carradia's most notable factions. Starting off with the Imperial lads. In today's video, we'll uncover the once mighty Empire in Bannerlord. It's not just a concoction of the game designers after a weekend history binge, but a clever nod to the grandeur and drama of another empire. This is the Byzantines. So whether you're a seasoned Bannerlord veteran who's conquered the map many times, or you're just here because the algorithm thought you liked medieval shenanigans and you wanted someone in really dull British tones to tell you about them, well, ready your steeds, tighten your formations, and let's embark on this epic quest of historical discovery. Call me Tony Robinson, ring up the time team. This is the history of the Empire. The Empire is a dominant force in the continent of Carradia, representing a once unified realm, now fractured into three separate factions during the Civil War. The Northern Empire, led by Lukon, the Southern Empire, led by Regaia, and the Western Empire, led by Gyros. Each of these factions claim legitimacy over the imperial throne, leading to internal conflicts that shape the political landscape of the game. But who have inspired them? Well, as mentioned, the Byzantine Empire is kind of the closest that we can get to them. Also known as the Eastern Roman Empire at some point in time, the Byzantines were a continuation of the past glory of what Rome at least was. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century AD, it lasted for over a millennium until the fall of Constantinople in 1453, a lot of people earmarking that as the end of the medieval period. Just as the Byzantine Empire saw itself the continuation of the Roman civilization, the empire within Bannerlord embodies the legacy of a grand ancient realm striving to maintain its dominance. The division of the empire into north, south, and west factions mirror the historical periods when the Byzantines faced these internal divisions, usurpers, and of course civil wars. Both the in-game empire and the Byzantines are such a big melting pot of different cultures, ethnicities, and religions, all being influenced with their politics and military. There's so much crossover between these two factions. I think we are definitely on the right path with going for our closest bet here. But what are some of these cultural parallels? Well, let's talk about the languages and the names within the people in the empire. Many characters and places within the empire have names derived from Latin and Greek origin, reflecting the linguistic heritage of the Byzantine Empire. The empire's emphasis on law and order, scholarly pursuits, really parallels the Byzantine tradition of Orthodox Christianity, theological debates, and preservation of classical knowledge. It was really a time of trying to conjure as much civilization as possible from the past and grasp onto it in this really fast and ever-moving world. With civil wars raging on, trying to keep everything in one place was always a struggle, and we really get the picture of this within Bannerlord. There's a lot of art and iconography, like the Imperial Eagles, ornate armor and elaborate architecture that the game reflects the Byzantine artistic styles and imperial symbols. I mean, the main one is got to be the Eagles. This is one of the biggest threads that we've got into the real-life factions as well. We can see a lot of the Empire leaders having bejeweled crowns, and even in the factions themselves, with a lot of the ornate arms and armor, especially the mail and things like that, you see a lot of crossover. And the way that going into just some of the Empire factions towns, the way that their nobles dress in the robes, we can see a lot of similarities there as well. The Empire's military in Bannerlord is sophisticated and versatile, mirroring the advanced, well-organized Byzantine army. The Empire doesn't have a huge focus on one in particular unit, much like, well, the Battanians love their archers or the Khuzaits love their cavalry. The Empire is such a good all-rounder with really well-supported troops in legionaries, cataphracts, and of course their Palatine archers. The heavy cavalry, though, I think the cataphracts are one of the more important ones. Heavily armored units that are the backbone of the Empire's, well, maneuverable forces. Historically, cataphracts were elite cavalry used by various empires, including the Byzantines, known for their heavy armor covered in both the horse and the rider. They are incredibly powerful shock cavalry and something that we can see used as a massive tactic within the game itself. When it comes to some of the infantry, the legionaries have these well-trained heavy infantry equipped with swords and shields. Of course, there is so much representation of the past Roman Empire. Principes and Triarii, of course, are part of a minor faction within Bannerlords, and okay, we are really harking back to the early days of Rome if we're trying to relate there, but we can see how they've evolved in the arms and armor and how that's been similar to the later days of Roman and Byzantine works. They really represent the disciplined soldiers of the empire as well. The parallels between the infantry, who are the successors to the Roman legions, and how, well, the empire have so much inbuilt relation to Rome, or at least what used to be the equivalent of Rome in Bannerlord, is so clear within the game. And of course, there are archers as well. We have the Palatine archers, if we're talking about the empire, which once again, with their scale and mail armor, have a lot of similarities crossing over to the Byzantines. Combined warfare was always such a big factor, especially of the Empire in Bannerlord, with a big emphasis on engineering and siege weaponries, and the Byzantines were renowned for their expertise in siegecraft and defensive fortifications. In the game, the Empire settlements are well fortified, and they utilize advanced siege engines when going up against anybody else. The architecture is something that is so important, though. The imperial cities feature these grand domes, arches, columns, reminiscent of the cities like Constantinople. Structures such as forums, hippodromes are such a big part of the Empire's image within Bannerlord. Aqueducts reflecting the game's public works. These are all found in early Roman cities, later to be adopted within the Byzantine areas, and of course capitals like Constantinople, with religious buildings which haven't really been delved into within Bannerlord. There isn't too much in terms of, well, depicted religion, but the architectural style of some of these buildings suggest influences from Byzantine churches like the Hagia Sophia, a cultural site within Istanbul. It is the last of the 3 church buildings to be successively erected on the site of the Eastern Roman Empire, and a lot of Latin and Greek influence is used here, starting off as an Eastern Orthodox church, later to Roman Catholic, and then being turned into a mosque later on. All of this really relates to what we've seen within Bannerlord itself. But I think we should delve a little bit more into the leaders and the clans. So starting off with the Northern Empire, we've got Lucon, a scholarly and conservative leader who values tradition and the old ways of the empire. Now, we don't really have too much to go for in terms of direct inspirations when we're talking about these leaders, but he might be inspired by a historical figure, Emperor Constantine VII, who is known for his scholarly work and effort to preserve imperial traditions. Constantine was referred to as the scholar. We are told that he was a passionate collector, not only of books and manuscripts, but works of art of any kind. Remarkable still, even for a man of his class. He developed a higher education and took special interest in the administration of justice. And then we got the Southern Empire and Regaia, a widowed empress who claims a throne through lineage and seeks to modernize the empire. She could be inspired by the Empress Theodora or the Empress Irene, powerful female rulers who played crucial roles in Byzantine history. And a lot of the Southern Empire's clans might represent the progressive elements within the empire, supporting reforms and changes to strengthen imperial power. And then we have the Western Empire with Garrios, a militaristic leader focusing on the strength of his army to reunite the empire. He embodies characters like Belisarius or Heraclius, who were instrumental in military campaigns to defend and expand the empire. The Western Empire also includes a lot of clans with strong military backgrounds, reflecting on their theme of martial prowess and discipline. The fragmentation of the empire into 3 factions during the Civil War, though, is one of the main things that we can focus on here, because famously the Byzantine Empire struggled with a lot of this. There was a lot of disputes over the imperial throne, often leading to power struggles and civil wars. Military leaders and provincial governors sometimes just declared themselves emperor, leading to fragmentation. While dealing with these internal conflicts, the Byzantines also had threats from neighboring powers, well, much like the Empire in Bannerlord had to contend with other factions. And if I'm going to be honest, we could literally pick from any of the millions of civil... If you just Google a list of Byzantine revolts and civil wars, it is almost endless. Obviously, it was a big period of time, but it was a constant threat to this empire. And there was nothing really that ever quelled it other than the fall of Constantinople, well, when the Ottomans were not being very nice. The Empire have a really important role in the game's narrative, and if we're going to go with anybody, I'd say almost the main characters. Their civil war is the pivotal element of the game's main storyline, with the player's choice to influence the balance of this power. Players can choose to support one of the Imperial factions, reunify the Empire, or even, of course, start their own here. And it really is a central conflict that you do have to contend with. All of this serves as a rich tapestry woven through the threads of historical inspiration from the Byzantines. By incorporating these elements of old and real culture with military and politics and society, the game creates this immersive and authentic experience that really reflects the complexities of a once great empire in decline. I think they managed to do it really, really well whilst, creating their own storylines and, of course, characters that have kind of become their own, I don't necessarily want to say memes, but famed within the Mount and Blade fanbase now itself. And there is a lot of in-depth lore that Cavalry has to contend with. There is so much more to delve into with the factions of Bannerlord. And boy, we're heading south next time because, well, there's a history that I really want to discover.